Greetings, family. I am Sabrina McKenzie, pastor, choreographer, and community activist. As a child, life was pretty good. I've always been very assertive, very creative. I was born in the Bronx, New York. However, when I was in maybe the 4th grade, I moved to Queens. So I was raised in Queens, and it was really interesting because when I got to Queens is when the Sugar Hill Gang came out with hip hop music. So I think I'm a product of the Generation X and the whole hip hop culture. And that's how I was pretty much raised. I always had a passion for dance. I danced even since the earliest of 3. And that culminated with the hip hop culture has been the way that I was raised in that environment. My mom was a single parent mom. I had 5 other brothers and sisters, and I'm the baby of 6. So, it was a fun time, very loving, always had people at our house. My mom always made, dinner for everyone, and was pretty spoiled back then. Okay, still now. Dance has always been a part of my life. When I'm happy, I dance. When I'm sad, I dance. When I'm hurting, I dance. I didn't know that dance at the time was therapeutic for me. However, it was just something that I always loved to do. Early on, maybe when I was 16, I started going out, hanging out, and going to Manhattan. And so, me being very open and creative, I saw videos on TV, I saw, the different rappers, and I just knew, I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is going to be a part of my life. And so we would travel to this place called Latin Quarters in Union Square. And there we would see people like Will Smith, Big Daddy Kane, like Madonna, and Salt and Pepper. And it would be nothing for us to just be hanging out with these people, dancing. So dance was just a part of the hip hop culture. You couldn't have hip hop without dance, and you couldn't have dance without having, the hip hop. When I danced back then, I pretty much would say every dance was my favorite dance. I did the WAP, the Cabbage Patch, the Running Man. I can really still do them. Don't let the jacket fool you. I can really still do them, but I choose to be subdued. In the church, we gotta be a little subdued. I told God, okay, I made a bargain. If you want me to do ministry for you, then you're going to have to allow me to make it in the entertainment industry, to buy my mom a house, to take care of my family. And when I'm 50, I'll cut all of my hair off, I'll buy some big bamboo earrings, and I'll look how you want me to look, and I'll serve you. And so the transition never happened my way. As you can see, I'm not 50. What took place is that when I went away to college early on, I left home at 17 and went to college, and I got a call that my brother died of AIDS. And so that traumatized me. Here I am, I'm away from my family for the first time, and my brother was sick before I left, and then when I get to school, he passes away. So that took a really big toll on me, being in Atlanta by myself. And then the next year, the following year, I got a call that my sister was murdered by her husband in front of her children, stabbed several times. And she was actually pregnant during that time, and she was talking to me about moving to Atlanta and about, getting away from her situation and moving into something different. So it was in that moment that I got that call from my mom, 3 a.m. that day. I knew that I could no longer run from the Lord. And I felt this impression from God that if you don't do, I was in my closet in Camp Creek in College Park in Atlanta, Georgia, and I felt the Lord saying, if you don't do what I'm calling you to do, you will be next. And it was at that moment that I just fell out on the floor screaming, and I gave my life to Christ. And you know what? That day I surrendered dance, because I didn't know that you could still allow dance to be a part of the ministry. I didn't mind giving up anything, but I could not fathom giving up the thing that I felt was the very fiber of my essence, of my being, of who I am and what I've been called to be. I just couldn't fathom doing that. And when God told me that I would be next, I yielded the gift of dance to the Lord. Everything was good, but something happened to me. I saw somebody dancing. And a young lady happened to be dancing to a Kirk Franklin song called Silver and Gold. And my God, the song was the very testimony that I had, because the song speaks of you giving up everything that you know to be, everything, every silver, every piece of gold, every house, every dream, and you are saying, but I would rather have Jesus. So as much as I love dance, but I would rather have Jesus. And it was that day that when I saw her dancing, I ran to the back. I can't even remember what was preached that day. I don't even remember, all the dynamics of the church, but I ran back behind the pulpit to find the young lady. And I was like, why are you dancing? Like, who told you could do this? And she was just, begin to express to me how she had a dance ministry there and how I could come be a part of it. But it was really about me, as Abraham did with Isaac, being able to give up something that you love so dearly to the Lord, knowing that the Lord is going to give it back and going to provide a sacrifice for you. So that time for me was used to just see if I had enough faith to trust God. In the International Dance Commission, our slogan is, we don't just dance, we vote. Why? Because I believe you can dance and you can tear up that purple carpet in your church all day and all night. But until we really get a responsibility to go out and help those that may not come to church, that may not have a desire to come to church, then we are not doing our job. So we are to take this light. We're to take everything that God has given us and go out and share it with the community. So in terms of community activism, I would say out of each of the roles, that is my greatest passion. And I also say this too, the greatest leader is the biggest servant. If you're a leader, and your leadership, it requires somebody running your bath water, somebody carrying your briefcase, 25 people following you, you can't visit the hospitals, you can't go into the jails, you can't speak to people, all of those things. Well, when I refer it back to the Bible, I see Jesus saying, she washed my feet, she served me. I see Jesus saying, the greatest among you is the least among you. I see Jesus doing otherwise. So I just chose to follow Jesus. Ironically, I think God just gives me things in part, knowing that if he tells me the whole picture, I would run and I wouldn't do it. I didn't even see, even with the dress code, with us not being able to wear jeans and heels, and as you can see, I have on stilettos, and, just being free and being authentically you, who God called you to be. Wearing your hair the way you desire to wear it, wearing makeup, being feminine. And what was so interesting is the day of liberation for me. I was in Puerto Rico during a dancing preachers conference in the water, and I just went in the water. I'm a worshiper, so before we have conferences and before we have workshops, I said I'm gonna go spend time with the Father, and I'm gonna get in the water, and we are gonna commune. And so I'm in the water just by myself. The people are not out yet, and I'm worshiping and I'm loving God, and I'm saying, oh, you're so beautiful, oh, how I love you, oh, how I exalt you. And he's like, if you love me, feed my sheep. And I'm like, wait, whoa. We have this covenant now. We went from, not dancing to dancing, and now I'm evangelizing, and we're good right there. Daddy, what else can I truly give you from me? He's like, if you love me, feed my sheep. And it was at that time in Puerto Rico in the water at 6 a.m. that God called me to the pastoral ministry, and I received it, but it was maybe a year later that I accepted it. And after graduating from seminary, that's when we really began to operate in the role of pastor. I believe in authority. And I believe that all authority is ordained by God. According to Romans 13:1, the Bible says that all authority is ordained by God. And when I read the Bible, I see that even though Jesus worked miracles, it was not until John the Baptist laid his hands on him until the heavens opened up and the angels descended saying, "This is my son, whom I'm well pleased." So I knew that even though God had called me before the foundations of the world, even though God had told me he called me when I was 12, even though I had accepted the call and I, was saved and evangelizing, it wasn't until I was truly ordained that I felt the affirmation of God saying, "This is my daughter, whom I am well pleased to live and be authentically you and preach my gospel to a people that desire to be authentically them." So I desire to serve God, to worship God, and to allow people to get their heart fixed, to allow people to come and get a heart inspection. Not anything that I could do that I would boast, but that God would be able to work on them. So for this church, you can come wearing whatever you have. You can come as you are, and the Holy Spirit will work on you and deal with you and begin to peel off those layers of tradition and layers of denomination so that you can be free. And who the Son sets free is free indeed.
Without your Father, I'm patiently waiting for your Lord to take me and make me new.